July 8th, 2025.
Okay, we'll call the city council meeting to order at 7 o'clock and rise for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to number 3, public comment period. I don't see anybody here for public comment at this time. We'll move on to number 4, approval of the agenda. I do have a couple additions and one change. The claims for July 8th will now be totaling $33,888.58 instead of $32,413.58. And we have resolution 2025-24 as other items. That's just to do some cleanup work here and get this final agreement approved for Schawn Enclave Properties. Just budget meeting reminder and then an update with everyone on Pederson Sand. That's all I have for others. Anyone else? Enough. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the additions.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Moving on to number 5, approval of the consent agenda items A and B.
Was there just an adding error? Is that right? It's 33,800.
No, it is an additional claim.
So that's not.
So, yeah, it should be. I think I put the new one in there with the 33,000. It's adding, Amy Suffer check
Okay.
is the dollar amount, and I believe.
Yep,
it's on
it's
there.
all updated. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I shall make a motion to approve the minutes of June 24th, 2025, and the approval of the claims for July 8th, 2025, totaling $33,888.58. I'll second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That carries. Move on to number 6 with City Attorney Jansen. Leo, do you have any updates for us?
Don't have any updates at this time.
Right. Then we'll cover the second reading of our peddlers ordinance 2025-05, and we'll vote on that after unless we have any changes, corrections, or any ideas to make this better, but it's pretty cut and dry for us. The ordinance changes we did last time would be to require proof of insurance for anybody applying for the peddler's permit. Just change the police department listed in the blanket language to sheriff's office. And we'll just fine tune the language on how a food truck is to not be facing the curbside, and we'll update it to reflect just not facing the curbside on a state highway, because I think that would be an issue, but just fine tune language to incorporate that they can work on the curbside, because I can't envision a food truck just being parked there and only letting people walk through the lawns. That wouldn't work in Green Isle, so they can park on either side as long as they're not obstructing traffic. And then the last thing would be to strike the language about vendors operating in the same public lot. Because I think that should be open to anybody in the public unless anybody disagrees. So, enough. Leo, I think Harrison, you have we can make a copy of this one or yours for Leo if we approve this, so. But again, this covers our food vendors, mobile food carts, vehicles, peddler's license, what's a regular business day, and solicitor, and city clerk Diane and I will work on the application and permitting and update our fee schedule as such. So I think that covers all of it for this second reading, unless anybody has any other comments on it. All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-05.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, and that carries. And I apologize, do I need to do a roll call vote for that? I believe we do for an ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, so I will correct that. So Schawn,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
And Harrison, when that carries, and we'll get notes to the city attorney Jansen for that to cover. Now we'll move on to number 7, school update.
We
Yeah.
did receive our certified letter, that we are in default, officially in default. It was given to Ken as well. It was forwarded out that the day we received it last week. If we don't rectify our default by, I believe it was the end of this month.
End of this month. Yep.
They'll begin the foreclosure process. We don't have the funds to rectify the default, so the foreclosure process will begin.
Yep, and I have not heard anything on the bank about our offer that we issued to redraw the lot lines in exchange for fair market value that was negotiated by the EDA, so I still have not heard anything from the bank at this moment. So the process has begun, and of course, we'll update anyone if we hear more. You want to continue on with EDA updates?
Sure. We had a DBA meeting last night. We had some extra time. So we did some strategic planning of our goals for 2025. We talked about how to help businesses. And one of them was marketing our RLF loan. We have $19,000 available, not a lot, but we're gonna market it and let businesses know that it's available. We talked about how can we help our businesses? And we're going to ask our businesses, whether we go in there in person or we send them a survey, we're gonna ask them, how can we help you? And then we talked about the historic buildings in town. And we specifically talked about the one right over there across the street. It's a nice older brick building. There were some mixed feelings about it. Everybody likes the architecture and the way it looks, but there were concerns about safety of that building. If young people would try to get into it or if bricks start falling off of it. So the consensus of the EDA was to recommend to council that the building official go in and do an inspection of the building. To see if it's still safe to be there.
I'm 100% on board with that too. I don't know what the council thinks, but it's, if we're getting concerns about it, I think we have to at least do something with a concern brought forth that bricks might be falling, the roof is possibly inadequate, and then might be caving in, or it's temporary roof, from what I understand. The windows are boarded up and we've had a ton of rain. So the condition could be pretty poor, and I hate like bunch of kids to try to break in there and play around, or God forbid bricks fall off the side while people are walking on the sidewalk. So we got
a matter that we've done with others.
Yep.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
It has to be.
One of the EDA members brought it up that there were similar buildings in town that were required to be torn down, so
And
they've all gotta be treated
Mhm.
the same.
So I think, yeah, we should have the building inspector come out if that's possible, if we could just do an official report. And we'll just make it official with the council, so I'll make a motion to approve, the city inspector respond to the, we'll call it the Foster building across the street to do an inspection. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that carries. I don't know what his schedule's like. I'm sure it's pretty busy right now, but hopefully we'll
is.
have a little
We
update
could
soon
get it
enough.
on his radar.
Yeah. All right, and then planning and zoning.
Actually got another EDA
Oh,
update
sweet.
happened between last night and today. I did hear from White Open Marine. And his lender is okay with the changes that Ken made last time.
Perfect.
They have a few details to work out between business and lender. And then he'll be ready to approve the 2 documents. I said, let me know when you've got your details worked out, and I will go ahead and schedule our EDA meeting for next week then
Excellent.
to get that approved. So that's good
Progress.
news.
It's really good news.
Mhm.
What are we thinking, next Monday, or we don't know for sure?
Monday won't work, you have a budget meeting that day, so it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday, probably at 6:30. So that's good news.
That is very good news.
Mhm. Planning and zoning, we don't have a lot going on right now, and we don't wanna meet just for the sake of meeting, so. We will probably meet after Wide Open Marine has closed on their property, and they do wanna close as soon as possible. So
Mhm.
we're still gonna try to push that the closing takes place no later than the last day of this month. So it'll just be a matter of scheduling the time, getting all the paperwork done and scheduling the time with Attorney Jansen's office to close everything. So it's good news. There's light.
Progress.
Mhm.
All right, anything else for us?
That is all I have.
Excellent, thank you very much. Tree committee update?
I think we have any updates from this last meeting.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on for number 11, park board update.
We got, I think I saw one estimate in for a railing for the bench area at the top of the hill at Lions Park. I don't recall if that one's printed off or not.
Yeah,
It is,
that's
the
here.
packet is VIT Oleum. Probably a new loose,
Okay. It's somewhere here.
yep, probably the last one.
Well, now it's open.
Get there. Once. So to put the railing up there where there's kind of a steep drop off by the sidewalk and that bench up there. So this quote came to $6,012.75, it looks like. I assume this is the only quote we were able to get on that.
Correct.
Okay. I guess I'm not familiar with railings or how much they typically cost, so I don't necessarily know personally how to feel about this amount, but it is, I think, a safety concern that we want to address.
Yeah, the only thing I have a question on is, and I guess it's not clear cut in the bid itself, is when they're cementing it into the concrete, is it gonna be cemented and attached to the existing block of cement where the bench sits, so that it can still be kind of moved or relocated? Should MnDOT work on the sidewalk? That's the only thing I'm questioning. And if it is mounted or permanently placed adjacent to the sidewalk and cannot be moved, is it able to be kind of cut or pulled up for when MnDOT does the sidewalk? They'd hate to purchase the railing and then we have to move it right away too.
No, as it's presented there, I believe it's concrete, or they're probably either core drilling into it and then bolts.
Bolts, you think?
They're cementing it in, so that is a good point. I mean, as far as how big of a core drill and how much concrete getting around, and I'm sure they know, but it doesn't say anything about a plate, that would be bolted to it.
And maybe that's something
But I
wouldn't mind asking.
Yeah,
I'd be confident that, no doubt,
Come out.
they've got it, that'd be secure.
Okay.
You're right, just to take it out again after a while, then takes their portion.
Maybe, yeah, if Diane's willing to inquire about that, no matter what, that way I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think railings, no matter what you do, aren't cheap and it's got powder coating, but,
Even if it is into a core like that, that'll come out after a while when they break it up.
okay.
MnDOT will, would hope to be
I
cautious.
would hope so.
Right,
would hope.
take it out, so I don't. And how many feet is that lengthwise?
If this is saying it's 46 from front to back, that it must be 10 to 12 foot wide.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's about 10 feet.
What's the total length? How much railing we got?
That'd be 10 feet plus about 4 feet on either end, so we'd be talking 18-ish feet.
10 by 4 railings then. That's a good size rail.
I feel like the area there's longer than 10 feet though.
Where the bench sits on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could very likely be.
It could be
Right, it's giving us heights, understand that, but it's not giving us a total front.
Could we confirm that too?
Yeah,
I wouldn't want a half railing put up.
right. My assumption, it would be that it goes the full length of that block, but we'll just validate that that is the case. And if it's not, we, of course, we'd decide not to move forward, I would assume, at a cost for half. Would be our guess, but I will make a motion to approve the purchase of the railing through JIT and OEM companies. I'm just pending responses on our questions for the total price of $6,012.75.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, pose same sign. And that carries.
All right, next one is an estimate to repair the siding and soffits at the Lions Park shelter. I think we have two for that.
Yes,
One from Element Exteriors. Totaling $14,130.57. And then a second one from Dan Elton Construction. Totaling $10,885.86. I guess one difference I noticed between the two is Element Exteriors proposes replacing a pre-hung 6-panel door. I might be missing that on this one. Don't see a door replacement on the Dan LP one.
And that's the door that leads into the kitchenette area, I assume, correct?
I believe so.
that's it, from the outside,
6-panel,
okay.
So the door you lock is what they're talking.
that's what I'm thinking. It's either that or the ones you're facing the kitchenette that hold up. You might be looking at maybe doing a slider, I don't know, 6 panels.
That definitely could change the bid if it's not included by elk, you know.
But just the tipping up part doesn't really need to be replaced. If anything, maybe just new paint,
Right,
if that's all it needs.
right.
And I don't really remember the door going into it that you lock, what type of shape that door was in, so I don't know which one they're talking about. I would think that's the door they're talking about, right?
Yeah, cause it's 36 by 80 inches.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't recall that being part of the scope. I don't remember seeing damage on it.
they must have looked at it and just thought it would need some work,
Yeah.
but. It can be heavy to clip up there, but I don't think it's due right now. But I'm inclined more to move with LFD construction, since he stayed in the scope of it and didn't do it as like an optional add, and,
I agree, he pertained to the bid
you know,
as it was presented. I don't know why they would have included something that wasn't,
yeah, you can add it as optional in bids, but yeah.
should have been alternate, saying this would have been, you know, broke down.
They're both very similar, so.
Yeah, Element also included some electrical. Replace 3 lights.
Yeah, we can do that. Light bulbs, maybe? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
guess I did include that in the original scope when I sent it to
Oh.
Diane, but I think you mentioned people service could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because I think it's just a
Bulbs.
broken,
yeah.
It's just the glass.
piece of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the electricity itself.
No, I remember that piece of breaking up there.
$1,200 to replace 3 lights. Seems like a lot.
I wonder if it's the full on. Piece,
Probably.
yeah, the whole shebang, which. So be it, but we can have people service do it, so. That's not an issue, but.
Yeah.
Even if you put the lights in there, put the door in there, don't get so cheap.
Mhm,
Mhm.
yep. And local,
And
so. Yeah. I know it's something that we've been wanting to get done, and
it has to get done.
it really does. So I'll make a motion to move forward with approving Alpha Construction for the bid to get the work done. Motion second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign, and that carries. And Amy, we had the Excel talk too, through EDA, the Excel.
Yes.
Yep, so as part of EDA updates, Excel's looking to extend their lease agreement, which Ken has reviewed, and we just want him to review it one last time. EDA did recommend to move forward with renting the industrial lot area. And now it's fit here at the council, so I would make a motion to approve the lease extension with Excel Energy until June of 2026.
Yeah, question.
Yep,
No.
well, I should say, is there a second on it, then we can do the further discussion on the Excel?
I'll second.
Perfect.
Further discussion. Is there I believe there is writing in there though, let's say if they sell the lot, we sell the
Yep.
lots, they have to get out, correct? Or?
Yep, we have a good exit clause in there, and then the last extension they did, we fine tuned the language so that they would move away so that the development over by JIT and all them is all set. So we'll do that again with the marina coming into play and make sure that they're away from those lots, especially the ones that the two we have in question with the bank right now. So we'll just have to update the language to reflect it, but same price, and they've been good renters so far. They've been putting stuff on the land to not leave big old divots in there, and they've opted to also fix it as part of the agreement that they'll fix any damages after they leave, so. And it's gonna come back to the city. Yep. Yeah. All right, motion second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and that will carry. And now we're off to number 12, street projects.
That is supervision of the Schawn enclave. I actually presented a proposal, which was included in your packet. So right, over that, answer any questions you may have about supervision of that street project.
Yeah, so we were asked to prepare a proposal for a full-time construction observation for the development for the public infrastructure. So basically anything within the right of way, not the grading of the lots per se, but anything, street, the utilities. So I contacted the gentleman who was here with the Charter Enclave group that they're looking at using for their contract, as their contractor. I think they're still up in the air a little bit about how the project might be phased from a construction standpoint. He's trying to get that nailed down, I think, with the developer. But so basically I just asked him, if you were to build it from start to finish, all the improvements, how long do you think it would take for the public utility and infrastructure portion? He thought it'd be about 4.5 months. So that's what I kind of based my proposal off of. So if they start and stop, that's gonna play a factor into how much time we might need to be out there and things like that. But I just kind of asked him just so I had something to frame my proposal around. So what we had assumed here was 4.5 months with a full-time staff construction observation person on site 50 hours a week. And then I also included a couple hours of engineering time each week for if they had any submittal reviews or if they had any questions as far as construction methods or something like that. If the plans weren't clear, if they had questions about how the city something else. So that's kind of how we put this here.
And Amy, is that paid for by Sharda? My understanding that is. And it's not cheap, but it's an investment that I think the city would really push, I would hope.
As
for them to cover.
I think from our previous projects we
Yeah.
had, I think this is a no-brainer.
And for future homeowners.
I think we had estimated the improvements to public infrastructure at like $3 million. So
Yeah,
percentage wise, I mean, I agree, it looks like a big number, but
it's worth its weight in gold for people that'll be moving in there later, knowing that the road is situated just right and everything's flowing correctly with no issues in the future, ideally. We had some issues back in Parcel 508 and we don't want to deal with that again, so.
Too many of them,
Way too many.
yeah, so other things that would be included in this is making sure that any required testing and things like that is being done and those types of things as well, so help coordinate that stuff.
Any questions?
I presume they're there daily, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
50 hours a week, good number. Cause I wouldn't know what I'm doing, trying to watch them build the road. So
Sure.
I have no idea.
Some contractors are, some only work, they don't work weekends or Saturdays or, with this type of development, I don't know how they would structure their agreement if they've got deadlines they've got to meet, but for a typical city project, usually there's like a hard deadline, so if they start getting behind, then they're working weekends and or if the weather's not cooperating or whatever, so it's like I say, it's just we had to have some type of framework for what we're going to do.
And Charter Enclave is aware that we'll likely be seeking somebody to monitor his project. So that's not a surprise.
They are aware of that.
Yes. Yeah,
Not sure they understand what that means, so.
pretty clear about it. I mean, we're gonna want to make sure that it's engineered and developed appropriately, so.
There was language in the developer division.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, let's say I remember something along those lines. Leo, did you think anything offhand for that? I don't see an issue with it. It could be done. Now, is this something the city has to sign into agreement, or is this with Charter? I assume the city signs into it with you and then it's part of the tip and everything, right?
I believe that's how it's written in the developer's agreement.
Yes, the city signed an agreement
Yep.
with ISG, and the city has to collect from Schawn Enclave,
Okay.
get them to reimburse.
You said this was included with the tip?
It was
Built into
included in
the-
the development agreement that was passed on June.
That will be part of what he's agreeing to as part of his development plan, so. Yeah, at a 3 million plus project, I think it's important that we do the right thing. I know there's significant costs, but that's part of the building, and it's not uncommon to have somebody at a facility full time, correct, Brian? It's pretty common.
Some funding, like if you were to get, for example, like USD fund project, they require it. Yeah, I mean, I think it maybe especially I'd say it's very common for cities to require some type of inspection, whether it's full-time or part-time, just depending on the city for
Right.
developers project. It just depends on the city. But ultimately, the infrastructure will be the city's infrastructure, so you want to make sure that it's constructed properly. Not to say that, anything against the contractor, but
Right.
it's just, like you say, it's somewhat of a quality assurance basically for the city, to make sure that it's being done.
I was just gonna say, this is $140,000, but if something happens in the future, we'll have to cover it through some engineer. We've got more trouble. This is a blink in an eye, and that's the case.
Yeah, and it does not surpass the dollar amount required for through the League of Minnesota Cities, so we'd be okay getting this approved tonight too.
I so move.
We have a motion to move forward with ISG for
Second.
construction observation and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. And find that over Brian if we need to. Anything else for street projects? I think that covers it. Perfect. We'll be moving on. Thank you, Brian. 13 for other Ferris repairs. In your packet should be some bids for our good old fashioned Ferris. Diane went and got 3 options here for the repair order. And RecTex we consistently use for the Ferris and other equipment. They've been pretty good to us. They pick it up, drop it off. It is down again. Full on replacement, muffler, oil change. Option 2 is the repair order for $2,167. Or we can look at a full replacement with a X marked model at $13,518.99.
Nickel dime in it,
Yeah,
really, because it's the thing it's got already.
been having some issues lately. and I know we're doing our budget meeting kickoff. It would be, and that's coming up, so we can definitely make sure that we have that stuff in our planning and budgeting like we have been doing, just like we did with the Bobcat, so it doesn't really shock us when we have to replace it.
We have some built-in capital that we're really.
Yep, we've been doing that every year, so it's really helped us level our budget, so. I'm trying to understand the difference between the two here for the,
To replace the engine and rebuild. the
oh, okay,
engine
okay,
is the difference.
I got you,
And then the third one is
just brand new.
bring, yep,
Yeah. Well, I know that the frame isn't in the best of shape, but an engine rebuild save almost $1,000 if they were to do an engine rebuild and limp us by until we can budget for a new mower. But they do have with a trade allowance of $300 out of the piece. The Ferris piece of machinery would give us $300 if we were to trade it in.
That's basically just shot.
Correct,
That's scrap.
correct.
I believe it's 20 years old.
Yeah, it's
20.
yes, 20
I think
years
it's
old
20.
for the record. Yeah, it's
I know it's gonna happen, we're
days.
gonna do this,
it's gonna break
we're
again.
gonna have something else
Mhm.
on this road already.
Because I think we've added in 3 times this year. Or at least 3 within a year and a half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So you're talking almost, it's probably close to half the price of what a new one.
yep. And we've budgeted for this, so whatever you guys think, but it's definitely needed at this point.
So then this would be, then we have this, then we might have a new one, and then there was another one, correct? Because we still have, that still gives us 2 lawnmowers.
This is 2, yeah. I don't know what.
Well, we have access to the Kubota as well, which.
So then that's almost 3, and you said that Kubota one is really, really old, right?
Right, but it works
works
very
great.
well, and
Yeah.
some of the
That's helpful.
mowers like it, yeah.
But this way we've kind of staggered the purchasing of them too, so that when they do start to eventually break down with wear and tear and age, we're still on that replacement plan.
So is this Ferris one the oldest out of the 3 of them then?
I believe it is.
Yes, it is.
It's gotta be, yeah, at 20 years old, it has to be.
So then my recommendation for my personal opinion would be pull the pin and get rid of it. And get the new one, so we can be on a cycle kind of
Yeah,
if something is at the 20-year mark again and it falls apart,
right.
can. Cause then hopefully with proper maintenance, there's like less another 15, 20 that maybe.
Right, is that your motion, Sean?
That is my motion to
Excellent.
trade in the old Ferris lawnmower for $300, purchase a new X-Mark lawnmower model, whatever you wanna call it.
And new is what, 13, that's the complete new price, right? 519,500. Okay.
Motion, I'll second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign, and that carries. And then we'll hit up our other items here. We have resolution 2025-24, which is the summary of the contract for private development by and between the city of Green Isle and Charlotte Enclave Properties US LLC for Lake Erin Estates Housing Project tip number 1 through 3, 1-3. Terms of the PAYGO financial assistance. Tax increment. The city will provide financial assistance in the form of tax increment payable to the developer each February and August 1st from 90% of the increase in tax capacity due to development of the new homes and received by the city during the 6-month period prior to each payment date. The remaining 10% of tax increment generated from the TIF district will be retained by the city for administrative costs related to the planning, management, and oversight of the TIF district. And our TIF note is the city will issue a pay-as-you-go note to the developer at an interest rate of 6.25%. The note will be issued when the developer has provided the city with evidence of public improvements and other qualifying costs totaling $2,948,775 at present value. Interest accruing from the issue date to February 1, 2028 is currently estimated at $187,000 $187,178. Note payments from the city to the developer will begin on August 1st, 2028 and run to the earlier of February 1st, 2054, or until the developer has been reimbursed an amount not to exceed $6,756,522. There will be a maximum of 26 years of financial assistance from the city for this project. This is not a business subsidy. The financial assistance is for housing and thus not considered a business subsidy. The developer will pay costs for preparation of the contract. The city will also require developer to submit fees to pay for the costs of establishing the TIF district and to pay for the reasonable out-of-pocket legal, financial consultant, and administrative fees associated with this transaction. These developer costs can be included as qualified costs for reimbursement by the tax increment. The developer will not seek a reduction in the market value as determined by the county assessor of the project or other facilities that it constructs on the development property for as long as the TIF note remains outstanding. Couple more items in our highlights of this long agreement. Construction, the project will consist of a new 41-unit, single-family owner-occupied housing subdivision located on one parcel, and that's PIN 34.0179.400 within Lake Erin Estates on Lake Erin Drive in the city. At least 95% of the houses assisted with tax increment will be occupied with persons at 100% of median income for a family of 2 or less, and 115% of median income for families of 3 or more. Construction is scheduled to begin by July 15, 2025, and to be completed by December 31, 2030. Assignment and indemnification matters. Prior to the issuance of the certificate of completion for the new homes, the developer will not transfer or assign the property except with prior written approval from the city. The developer indemnifies the city against any loss or damage arising from any defect in the minimum improvements and any claim arising from the contract. Events of defaults and remedies. In brief, the developer defaults under the contract. The city may, among other things, withhold tax increment payments or terminate the contract. And again, this was drafted by Ehlers for Schawn Enclave Properties US LLC. And those are the highlights of our resolution 2025-24. Any questions on that?
Nice about the tip, we're not liable for anything, I mean, we're getting our costs covered 10%, right?
Through the pay as you go.
Yeah.
Just. Yep. I think it's set up pretty good with the assistance of Ehlers and everyone, so. Without further ado, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-24, which is that contract for private development between the city of Green Island and Schawn Enclave Properties.
I'll second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Roll call vote, Schawn,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
And Harrison,
Yes.
and that carries. You. And just a reminder, budget meeting is on Monday, July 14th at 6 PM already. Make sure that's marked in your calendars. And then there was some talk about Pederson sand. It looked like there was some new rock placed over there. It's actually not. They called Pederson. They just had somebody do some cleanup and move everything up into the pile. That's why it looks brand new, and that still belongs to the city. So bigger pile, but it's ours. So that's per Pederson sand. And so the city will definitely find use for that, I believe. So we'll.
Were we still looking into selling it to residents? We dropped that idea.
I don't know where that's sitting anymore.
And when I brought tree branches up on the trim this past weekend, out by the compost there, I think it's a good idea to maybe hold off on that, because with them adding the rock around the
Right.
bunkers,
Starting to sink.
it makes it look nice and it's holding everything in place. Plus, we've always thought about maybe adding on with the bunkers. So I don't know when we would add on, maybe that's something to look into for in a couple of years to add on to that, and then you can use more of that rock up, and if you put it down for a good base. I don't know about selling it, because I really don't know how much is there. And I know the city can use it all up.
Been good, it's starting to base up better, yeah.
It's good rock, so.
I don't like it, the idea that's piled there, it's an eyesore, but cost to pile it over there too.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I would I would probably shy away from selling it to anybody until we know we don't really need it anymore, but I have a feeling for the next couple of years, we'll always find a place to put some.
Works for me. Easy enough. All right, so that's really all I had for others too. I think we covered it all. Without further ado, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.